Hello, hello, hello. Welcome on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Delighted to have you all here with us for a very fun and wild conversation. It is my pleasure to open up this afternoon for the Haas brothers, Uncanny Valley. Very pleased to have you all here with us today. Just a quick little note at the beginning here before I turn it over to Laura Ma to introduce the talk. We are so pleased to thank our supporters for this exhibition, the George Francoeur Art Museum Exhibition Fund, Rebecca Applebaum Wyatt, Karen and Drew Bacon, Mark Schwartz and Emily Caminier, and support for the institution is generously provided by the Nasher Sculpture Center, Marion Boski Gallery, R & Company, Laura Reynolds, and Soko Gallery. We're so excited to have these partners as we present this exhibition for a very exciting tour across the country after it leaves the museum. And with that, I'll introduce our chief curator, Laura Ma.
Hello, everyone. This is a very special moment for me. I first went to the Haas Brothers studio, I think, in 2016, and I went there through a mutual friend. It wasn't a formal visit, and I was completely blown away. And then maybe a year or so later, I saw them give a talk at the Nasher in Dallas, and I was like, I have to work with them. So this is many years in the making, and just so thrilled. So twins Nikolai and Simon Haas were born in 1984 and originally from Austin, Texas, where they were raised working alongside their father, who was a stone carver. The brothers later moved to Los Angeles and formed the Haas Brothers Studio in 2010, each bringing their respective passions and distinct specialties together to create work that was bigger than each of them could have made on their own. Their works incorporate materials such as marble, bronze, ceramics, beads, porcelain, wood, and brass. Every creation includes a mastery of material. The Haas brothers have had numerous solo exhibitions in the United States and abroad, including the Nasher Sculpture Center, Jeffrey Deitch, Marion Boski Gallery, the Bass Museum in Miami, amongst many others. This exhibition, Uncanny Valley, is their mid-career retrospective encompassing their 15-year practice and is traveling to the Museum of Art and Design in New York, the Blanton Museum of Art in Austin, Texas, and the Mint in Charlotte, North Carolina. Their work can be found in permanent collections such as the RISD Museum, the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum in New York, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art and LACMA in Los Angeles. Last night, the opening was exceptionally special, and many people shared with me how much joy the exhibition brought them and how much that is needed right now. Their practice makes me think about a rainbow, one of life's joyful sparks, but it's actually an optical phenomenon that requires a lot of complex factors and conditions to come into being. Similarly, there is conceptual architecture behind the Haas brothers' joy. And here to tell us about how they problem-solve fantasies are double rainbows, Nikki and Simon.
Hi. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Hi, I'm Simon, and this is Nikki.
All right. Thank you. I'm Nikki. Thank you for coming, everybody. We have some images. I think we can flip through them and talk about it a little bit, but then also love to answer questions if you want at the end. So.
We're going to sit down with Laura and speak some after this.
Oh, yeah. That too. Great.
We were so excited to do this here. It's an incredible institution. This is the biggest show we've ever done. It's the first time we've ever seen all of our work together also, which is really cool. It's just been a very special experience. So we're going to start by talking about babies.
Guess who's who?
Yeah.
I mean, we've always.
I think it's obvious. Yeah.
Or when did you start working together? Back then.
Right there.
Simon had the duck and I had the no tears. Or to slime it up and make something funny out of it, I guess. But our dad was a construction worker, and so we always had tools and stuff around. We used to
We're,
dress the same.
we're twins, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
We, I like that one.
I love this photo because Simon's wearing blue and I'm red, and I feel like this kind of gets our personalities still today a little bit.
Yeah, I'm the grumpy one. So we grew up in Austin, and we were surrounded by, if anyone was there in the 90s, it was smaller. It was sort of a hippie kind of pot town. And there were a lot of these big sculptures on all of the businesses. So every business had not everyone, but there were lots of funny sculptures on tops of buildings. Objects as a way to catch attention or just as a wayfinder was always a thing for us.
They're never too serious either, and it was about invitation, right? It was about everyone's invited, come on in, be a part of it, and that was always Austin's attitude. Like, keep Austin weird was the slogan, but it was more about like, everyone's invited, we're weird, you're weird, everyone can come. Always loved that. But
That's the Manja Pizza dinosaur. They also had a car that had like dinosaur spikes on it. And the best Halloween costume store in the world, Lucy in Disguise with Diamonds. You can get a feel for where our names come from also by Austin, because that's a pun name. And then there was a culture of like head shops, which is Planet K. We always wanted to go in. I think it was 18 plus.
I remember the first time we suggested a show to the first gallery we're working with, our own company, and we're like, what if it's like Planet Cake Gifts, and you go in and like it's, but it's like weird, cool, new stuff, and they're like, what is that? Anyway, but Whole Foods.
More objects on buildings. We grew up 3 or 4 blocks from the first Whole Foods, which was a tiny little spot.
Yeah.
And it's this one here.
So, more weird stuff. These are like urban myths from Austin.
Oat Willie.
Oh, yeah. So there was just a cool culture going on in the 90s in Austin. I really think it was sort of its like strangeness peak, which made it really fun to grow up. But here you see Flea and Kurt Cobain, and Kurt Cobain's wearing Daniel Johnson's mural, which you see just to the left of it. It's, it said, "Hi, how are you?" It was like a frog. I don't know, you saw the cover star of our book, obviously influenced by Daniel Johnson and just this strange culture going on. MTV was paying attention. There were great people coming through doing awesome shows. You had the Butthole Surfers in Houston, but still, like, truly, to be in Texas and to name a band the Butthole Surfers is so transgressive and interesting and cool. The music is just beyond rad. So just the Texas culture and the weirdness of it, and to have sort of like a rad post-punk band like that, and then like Willie Nelson, who's straight up country, being listened to some of the most conservative people in America, but who also has like braids and smokes weed. It's really Austin. Like, it's hard to. This is sort of the culture that we were growing up in. So we became musicians ourselves. Here's like images of us being weird. It's our older brother in the middle up here with the guitar. This is us when we first started our first studio in LA, and we're fabricating a Johnston Markley project, who are some of the first people that really took a leap on us and had us do fabrication for cabinetry and had us design some of our first design objects. This is the first design objects we ever built for that project. I mean, you can see in the photo we're like 22 or 23, or maybe a little older. It was early on.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but this is us with one of our first objects. We're like, let's shoot it underwater, and I'm glad we did.
There's a similar vase to this in the show, and it was the first design object that we made that wasn't commissioned for something. We had started as fabricators for other artists, or like we made set pieces and did set design, and we were kind of the go-to for people that didn't know how to. We were cheap and would make anything, so a lot of people just came to us for that, and we'd
work for nothing.
Yeah, and we would make our own objects whenever we could, and this vase is one of those things. We made it by pouring plaster into pantyhose and then tying it up, and using that form to cast bronze.
We called them like bondage or hematite vases, but it was our first sort of like foray into sexuality inside of design objects, which became a bigger theme. So this is the first collection of those. And
the first accretions, there's a lot of accretions upstairs. You can see they were a lot more rudimentary back then, but this is a really interesting process that we developed where you brush really wet clay, it's called slip, onto a ceramic vessel over and over and over until it starts to grow. So it's based on, it's kind of grown how caves grow, and we're really interested in having the human hand kind of guide a natural process where we're involved, but physics is also taking over. And it's actually cool to see this early set, because the ones over there, if you haven't seen them yet, they grow like crazy. They're so hard to make, incredibly fragile, and really beautiful. Was this our first stool?
It's one of the first three. I mean, you can tell those have the MDF under that.
So this was another really strange process. There's pieces like this upstairs. You can't always tell that there are seams in between these hexagonal tiles, but this is an early one. And we made this by cutting a hexagonal brass rod into little tiles and then hand hammering each one of them to fit over a surface. Later, we would start also mitering the edges so that they would fit more cleanly together, but it's an incredibly time-consuming process. Hexagons really don't like bending. It's the most rigid grid.
Which is why he chose them, which is super annoying, but also what
Yeah.
makes it really special.
Yeah, we don't really make these anymore because it's just too crazy, but they were a huge part of the beginning of our studio, and they kind of launched us into making a collection with Versace really early on in our career, which is a super cool moment.
So here we are with Donatella.
Oh yeah.
This is us. We were doing I'm acting like I know what I'm talking about, but we were like on Russian TV, and they're like, okay, so here's the questions, and they like listed 10 questions in English, and then she sits down, she's like, like just starts speaking in Russian. We're like, what the hell?
And we were going,
You asked us that like 10 minutes ago. But anyway, but we made
these prints,
like patterns. We did. You can see more like bondage going on down here. We were sort of starting to put sexuality and this like kind of sexiness into the things that we were making.
A more developed set of accretions. Getting it to this level is truly crazy. We lose like 3/4 of them in the kiln, or just moving them. The surface is so fragile that while you're brushing it, if you leave the brush for too long, the texture will dry onto the brush and rip them off of the surface. So it's a really carefully done process.
But these are a really good example of how the two of us work together too, which is Simon creates these really insane material processes, and then I get the opportunity to sort of like imagine them on forms and like what they would look like. I mean, we do that, both sides of that together, but in these particular ones in this set.
This is also a good example of how we moved from making vases or vessels into things that have echoes of being a vase but are completely pointless. And we were just talking about this with some students, but to have it resemble a vase makes you have an immediate connection with it, because design objects they're on a human scale and you recognize them immediately. But then to turn the neck and make it pointless makes you start asking questions. Another collection of those. This is a Zoidberg lamp. We named this form after Dr. Zoidberg from Futurama. If anyone's seen it, he has like these weird lips. So that's these lips.
But so you can kind of see, we're just illustrating that we're making furniture objects or lighting objects, but this doesn't really make that much light. The vases don't really work. So we're just playing with these initial ideas of making these forms and things that are becoming closer and closer to objects. So these are maybe some of the first like officially completely non-functional objects that are sort of made. The point of these was to do like personality portraits. So we were making beast versions of our friends or people that we knew, and not really having any want or need to sort of prove that they were design objects. So we were showing these at Design Miami still. We hadn't really quite punched into the art world yet, but showing them as toys so that we were allowed to show them, I guess.
These are an important moment for us when it comes to Uncanny Valley, the title of the show, because it's an exercise in using fur to make creatures that is not creepy. So if you make it look too much like a real animal, it's taxidermy and it's really spooky. If you take some features off and make them cute, you start to like them a whole lot. A good example of this is there's these delivery robots in LA that roll around, and because they're like blinking and have names, you want to take care of them. So this was it was really it's an exercise in which features and how do you make them have a gesture where you actually start to feel a real personality.
Yeah. Personality and humor, I think we really started interjecting a lot of humor into our work too, because it creates empathy and you can start to draw the viewer in to start to see the world and from your point of view. This is the big beast upstairs.
He has more features.
More features. So after those beasts, we went to South Africa to give a talk, and we met this group of women, and we asked them to start beading with us. It was a really awesome project. This was the first.
Here.
Yeah, this is the first set of work that we made there. Oh, thanks. And this was like. Just to give you an idea of scale. Well, you guys just saw the mushroom upstairs, right? But like that red one's 8 feet tall, and we met this group of women. They were making unbelievable objects, and we were, they had a collective, and we were just buying some to bring home and going, wow, these things are really, really craft heavy. They must have taken a huge amount of time, and they're very, very inexpensive. So we were going, all right, there's room to create some economy here. And we asked them to work with us. Initially, they declined, but then we came back again and asked if they'd be up for it, and eventually they agreed. And the Cooper Hewitt Design Museum, Smithsonian Design Museum in New York asked us to make a presentation, and we just happened across them and realized there was an opportunity to kind of pull them into our world. And I think we were, going, okay, we're like super privileged and so lucky to get to interact with the museum, and they are, living so far across the world in a completely different social environment. Like, what if we combined our worlds and made something special?
And this completely changed the trajectory of our work. There's the tree upstairs is an example of where this wound up taking us, because they ended up teaching us how to bead. We recreated a similar setup of beading with women in a work vacuum in Central California. And up until this point, we hadn't really used that much color, which is surprising when I look back at it. This object is a really good one to talk about.
Because we were, so most of the women that we were working with were living in Kailicha, which is about a 15, 20-minute drive outside of Cape Town. And there was a studio for them to work in inside of Cape Town, but the drive 15, 20 minutes, but to take the bus is like 2 hours. A lot of them were taking the bus, so they were commuting almost 4 hours a day, right? Just to come in and work. So Simon came up with this idea, well, what if we started making objects that were just like covered in discs or like tiles, basically? So most of these tiles are, I don't know, about this big, the biggest at the bottom are like that. So the idea became, we can send all of them home with a bag of beads, needles, and like a satchel, right? So they don't have to come here. They can work on just as many discs as they want over the next 3 weeks to a month, and then we all come together and assemble these like larger artworks. Simon got obsessed with the idea of sending people home and being able to like have them work from home. And so he spent the next 8 years creating a bead program so that we could make reliable, repeatable, dependable shapes that could then be applied to larger scale sculpture.
That are easy to make.
What ended up happening is we created just some more images of the women. This is Simon working on his system.
So it's a beading program. When I say program, people assume it's in a computer. It's not. It's just written on paper. But basically, you can use black and white beads and assign them values like 0 and 1, and then write little algorithms for them, and they will make emergent shapes. There's a lot more to it, but I won't go too far. It's pretty easy to read and really easy to do. The shapes just kind of happen if you're following a single rule, which made it ideal for this project where we can teach these little objects, teach beading in the first place to people and have them producing the work. So this we do in Central California, and the leaves on the trees are all made with rules like that.
Yeah, and so now we have this process, right, that can be delivered to anywhere in the world with any group of people, and make sculptures for anywhere, which is pretty amazing. So Simon created these amazing leaves, and that's really what ended up creating the want to make trees. We have these beautiful leaves. We can make vines. We can make all this stuff with Simon's system. Like, what do we use them to make? So at the same time Simon was creating this system, he was speaking to this woman you see on the left, in Venice during the Biennale, and she's like, oh, my dad left me a factory of old beads. So her dad had owned a factory of beads that had gone out of business in 1982.
I was talking to beads about beads to everybody.
Yeah.
She was the only one who was excited about it.
Yeah. So she let us in. There's like scorpions. There's no electricity. There's like vines growing through. There's like rain once in a while, and like the bar, everything's getting covered in vines. And we start opening these bags of beads. We go, holy shit, these beads. Anyway. So we brought 10,000 kilos of beads home.
Oh, wait.
And
do that? Oh, yeah.
they're from, this factory was opened in the 1700s, so we can't date the beads, but, they're from between 1700 and 1982. We don't know when the strawberry tree from is exactly.
It's a real treasure moment to find this. And the tree here is made out of Venetian beads.
It's just like during the day we were in the factory and you see like scorpions and tarantulas, and we'd go to the Cipriani and like have a Bellini. Just Venice is amazing. I was just trying to tell like how great is Venice.
This is a picture of Lost Hills, California. It's a farming community in Central California, and they make lots of nuts and pomegranates and things. And there's very little work for women. It's kind of a male-dominated day laborer economy. And we were invited to come teach beadwork there and set up the same system that we had in Cape Town. And I mentioned they produced the tree here. So the tree, those leaves were made by 30 different people. And when the thing comes together and is assembled, it just is very special for us to know who was working on it. We were friends with all of these people, and it's still ongoing.
So just some more examples of the variation in shape that you can get with Simon's beading system, and you can see examples of them up in the gallery upstairs.
This was a show at Marianne Boski that was really cool. One of the pieces is upstairs, Centuriana. It's a big pink one, really gorgeous. But these are teeny tiny little Venetian beads, and these ones are cool. You can't touch them, but I wish you could because they're stretchy and kind of bouncy. It's an interesting stitch.
Early versions of the tree. So Simon has these awesome bead shapes, right? And we go like, what can we make with it? So I drew the first tree. The Nasher Sculpture Center had asked us to do something in their space, which is the strawberry tree upstairs that's now traveled here. So this was the first sketch that we did for that.
Our drawings in the final product don't look the same necessarily.
Simon created this rendering, which is getting pretty close. Yeah. At this point, coming up with ideas, going back, working with the women. Simon's teaching them how to make it. This is our first flower, and then you can kind of see how the parts look before we started casting the trunk in bronze. So this tree, the strawberry tree upstairs, is such a dense object for us because the amount of things that had to come together. We had to learn how to bead in South Africa. We had to learn how to. Simon had to, create a system in order to, deliver this. Set of work to groups of people in fairly remote places. We had to go to Pilchuck Glass School to learn how to start blowing glass. We have to know how to cast bronze. We grew up carving stone, so we used stone in the base. Went to Pilchuck and started making the first strawberries. But the amount of different types of craft and how dense it is in this single object, all for the purpose of creating economy and economic vacuum, really felt like such a great, and it's a chandelier, right? So it makes some light. So we have design, we have craft, and we have art. I mean, to us, the art in it is the community aspect of it and the kind of effect that it can create. And we end up with like one beautiful, crazy thing.
This was cool. We got to do a residency at Pilchuck Glass School, which is the greatest glass place ever. But these two, we said, we want to make a strawberry, and these two figured out how to do it, and it was really awesome. We ended up not having those yellow leaves on them, but that was the first strawberry.
The stone in the box before we assembled it. Close-up of the beads. That's Lou, that's my son's best friend, under the tree to give you scale. But you guys have seen it in person. That's it in our studio before we finished it. And then, okay, so accretion, we kind of moved on to using it in wax a lot and casting it in bronze. And this is the tree. I mean, the chair from upstairs, which the Cranbrook has now acquired, which we're so proud about. So you can kind of see what it looked like in wax initially. So we use beeswax and then like technical wax to build it. The seat of the chair is actually based on the Eames study for the most comfortable chair, and we're using 3D printing to create the perfect seat shape, applying wax to it, hand carving, and then accreting. So there's a lot of sort of like technical tools and things going into this that are more complicated than meets the eye. You can see the texture up close, and then this is it at the bottom left after it's been, and you can see we have sculptures, that serve no purpose next to chairs, to just give you an idea. Okay, like this is the same process being applied over similar works. This is it being patinaed in the studio, and then
Our newest tree.
it. Yeah, I wanted to end with the newest tree. So this is Doug. I think is here. This is going in his house soon, and it's just to kind of show you how the trees have. I must have taken this off of Instagram. Sorry, someone posted a photo. Upset. I'm obsessed with myself,
too,
if you couldn't tell already. Yeah, with us. But the trees are growing and changing, and this is just an example of hard glass. So we're like moving into to more different types of work, and we're going to make more stuff. Keep looking because it'll keep changing. So. That's our slideshow.
Well, thank you for that. That was wonderful. Also giving me some reminiscence of going back to that first lecture that I saw in Dallas, and just the energy that you have and what you put into your work. It was really infectious, and I think that being Cranbrook, we are a place that really brings together art, craft, and design. And we're also known for making things exceptionally well. So I think all of that kind of ethos of Cranbrook just felt like the perfect match. And now that you've been here at Cranbrook, can you talk a little bit about this place?
Yeah, I mean, I think, okay, so you hear about Cranbrook when you're in the art world, and then it sounds like an amazing place, right? And then we came, and you see just how deep that goes here. It's like, I can't think of a better spot for us to do something like this. I mean, you've got the design aspect, the craft is so heavy, and the art, and for us, we always think of that sort of as like three pillars of what it is that we do. And there's like no better place than here to flesh that out for us, for sure.
It is truly so cool, and our work has never looked better than in that space with the coffered ceilings that I love so much, and just the whole. It's cool that people are making work here also. We got to walk through the ceramic studios today, and it's just awesome that it's more than a museum. Everyone here actually really either makes or cares about all of this stuff. The weird random bricks in the buildings here, there was so much thought put into this, and then just they're like, I'm gonna turn the brick that way. But that's great. That's like kind of what we do. So it's a really good marriage.
Yeah, I think people would want to talk to you about beads here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't always get that many beaters coming out of the woodwork. That's right.
Well, looking back with this process of doing the retrospective, you had shared it was like a really emotional thing. Can you talk a little bit about what it is to look back over 15 years?
It was kind of, I mean, it made us feel old. I know we're not old, but that was the first thing, I think, when we walked in and saw all of these pieces together. But it's just incredible to see all of our work together, because for us, as we're making it, there's not even necessarily, we don't always see a through line. And I think getting to have all of the work like this presented as beautifully as it is, we can suddenly see our work with a bird's eye view and start to actually understand what we're doing. We really just kind of go with the flow. And there is a common thread through everything, as weird as all the pieces are.
I mean, we're 41 too, so instead of having a midlife crisis, we got to have a mid-career retrospective.
Pretty good.
Because we were going through reviewing, because each artwork is such a part of the experience of that time period, and as we're building it and making it, we're putting so much of ourselves into it that going through images of work is kind of like looking at yourself in a mirror and being like, who am I, and who were we, what were we doing, and why, and yeah, it was a really awesome experience to get to do that.
I want to talk a little bit more about empathy, because it's a word that you've talked with me a lot about, and that being something that is a driver for a lot of your aesthetic decisions. And I will say, as a curator, it's been incredible to work on this exhibition. The trust of I really wanted to create these worlds. I wanted different bodies of work to interact with each other, something that hadn't really been done before. And but I will say, getting loans for the Beasts and Freaks was one of the biggest challenges I've ever had as a curator, because everyone is so in love and attached to them. So someone would agree to a loan, and then when it become time to actually organize it for the show, they'd write, "I can't be away from him for 2 years." They really, and this kept happening over and over again. So I was like, well, at least that shows a sign of success that your empathy mechanisms work, even though it was a really disservice to me as a curator.
I mean, the Beast had a lot of themes of sexual freedom and stuff, right, in them, and so I think that's just as an example, right? We use the personality of the Beast to kind of draw you in. What are they about in the beginning, at face value? Not much beyond just being funny and cute. But then as as you get someone to feel empathy towards an object, they become more open to the message that's deeper within it. And so I think you could take one of our beasts, and then you could just go, that's cute, and leave it at face value, or you could dive deeper into it and understand our motivation in making it is about conveying a personality that we love, putting joy into the world, creating sexual freedom, and opening that subject. I remember the first time that we put balls on an artwork, we were showed it in San Francisco, and there was this woman that was checking it out, and she must have been 85, 86. And one of our gallerists was like, "Oh, there's you should look under there. There's more to it that you don't see, right?" And she goes underneath. I'm like, "Oh my God, Evan, why did you tell her to go touch that thing?" Or no, it was Zesty. It wasn't Evan. And then and she goes down, and she comes with this huge smile on her face. And then all of a sudden, I'm having a conversation about sex with an 86-year-old woman, which at the time was 20-something, which was but not sexy way. I just mean having an open, funny conversation just about being frank and honest and being exposed and talking to each other. And it's that's the empathy we're talking about. That. It was cool to make an object, that we made an object that then opened a conversation that I wouldn't have been able to have without the object existing. And so I think a lot of when we're deciding how to make an artwork, we're often considering how do we get somebody to feel warmth toward this thing so that it opens more for everybody around it. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's a good way to talk about the Uncanny Valley, more specifically, the title of the exhibition. Just a really funny aside, I was at a Halloween party the other day, on Halloween, and I was talking to a friend, my friend Lisa, and I started to explain the Uncanny Valley. She was like, "Oh, I know what it means." And I was like, "How?" She was like, "From 30 Rock." And there's a great clip of Tracy Jordan being told what the Uncanny Valley is via Star Wars terms. So I encourage everyone to go Google that after the show.
Yeah, I want to see that. The Uncanny Valley is really cool. It's a robotics term, and if you're making a humanoid robot the more you make it look like a person, the more you like it. Then suddenly, if it looks too much like a person, it's revolting. And then if you make it cute, you start to have a huge amount of empathy towards it. So I was talking about those little delivery robots in LA. They're designed to manipulate us into liking them because they have little blinky eyes, and it really works. Humans are all about projecting onto things. If you look at a light socket or an electrical outlet, like you see a face. And that tendency is something that we like to take advantage of by making these beasts that they don't have very many features. We're giving them only enough gestural information and just horns to let you put your own personality onto it. We're not telling you what the personality is.
Well, the titles give it sometimes a gender, or usually have like a cultural reference, and there are often puns, and kind of sometimes perverted puns.
Most of them, yeah. That's just it's a great entry point to the object. If you look through like paint swatches, they all have such boring names, something breeze or whatever, and then artworks also frequently have sort of heady names. Nothing against that, but it's not really in our nature to. If we came up with a heady name, I think it would feel really fake to us. So we're more about we want to make each other laugh. Our names are all about that. Even if you don't like the artwork, hopefully you like the name. My favorite, I'm going to say a nasty word, but my favorite title here is that there's a platypus creature upstairs with a big tail, and if you lift it up, it has a butthole, and its name is Tori Anus. And it's a stupid name, but it's so funny, and it's a really great way to get somebody to connect with a piece.
If you can create empathy towards an object, right, then you give them the like, if you can coerce somebody into being comfortable around a thing, then you give them the opportunity to project themselves on it, right? Because it's like, if you're comfortable, you're going to be yourself. And ultimately, I think great artworks allow the viewer to decide for themselves what it is and take away their own experience. And like, the more comfortable they are, the cooler takeaway they're going to have. The better they're going to be when they project themselves against it. Like, you want to help people be the best versions of themselves when they're experiencing art, and doing it for ourselves too, in a way, right? And also understanding that, like, we're not going to explicitly tell the message. It's not really the point of the way that we make artwork. It's to allow people around it to decide what it's for themselves, and being comfortable and creating empathy, and starting with like a stupid name just to break the ice so that they can settle into themselves is important,
Yeah, the way my shorthand to describe it is the amount of like affection and empathy we feel for like a stuffed animal or like a teddy bear versus like an embalmed taxidermied bear. And the uncanny valley is that space between that where you guys kind of reside. And then also the same thing with the ceramics, right? These are like vase-like, but they're not functional. And they also have this kind of like fungal, it's somewhere in nature between like real world and the otherworldly.
Well, there's a lot of liminal space, and the more liminal space there is, the more the person looking at it gets to decide what it is, which is really cool, right? Like, because we're not deciding, like, with the vases, it kind of gives us, like, non-commitment, You go, like, is it a vase? And you're like, yeah, sure. You're like, is it a sculpture? Yeah, sure, it's that too. Like, whatever, we don't have to decide, really. It's like, it's up to you, kind of, which is better. The person with it should decide, not us.
I think there's going to be questions in this audience. I already see a hand up. I just like, okay.
Can we start just quickly? I'd just like to take a quick moment to acknowledge Katie Kim, our curatorial assistant for the show.
Katie Kim.
And with that, before we go to questions, could we just talk a little about the monograph?
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about that as well. So we made a publication, and we had a great book signing here. The other author, Brooke Hodges, is here today. So let's give a round of applause for Brooke. And we also did an interview with Lida and Isabel Albuquerque, a mother and daughter who are both artists and also friends of yours. Yeah, you want to talk about, let me a little bit about that friendship and what that
Well,
interview was.
do you know what's funny is like Isabel, we knew her and her like boyfriend were like, what were they exactly?
They made
they
music,
were like website
music
designers
and music videos and website
Yeah.
design. They were kind of did all kinds of things, and they had a manager for music videos who they connected us with, and we wound up doing set design through this manager.
Yeah.
And that manager is who introduced us to Donatella eventually.
Yeah.
And
when
that's
we were doing
what
like,
kind of like launched us.
we're doing like fabrication for Lita, and like Simon was a chef. I was a construction worker / like house manager at the time. So it was like we had such completely different careers, and it was such a long time ago. And now we sort of like ended up in the same position. And I think it was just LA was this really cool place at that exact moment. There was a lot going on. There were like weird bands coming up, a lot of cool comedians, you know. And we were making art. There was like choreographers. It was just like a good scene in Silver Lake before it was like too gentrified. It was kind of strange. And Isabel was just this, and remains one of the most courageous people I've ever met. She just says exactly who she is the second you meet her. She's like all over the place and full of energy and super positive. And I don't know, she was amazing. So when we were talking, you know, who we would talk to in the book, she and Lita just made a lot of sense, because you've got Lita, who's like wise, you know, one of the wisest people I've ever met. And she just like, especially when it comes to art stuff, like I'll talk for 50 minutes and she'll say 2 sentences and say everything I just said, but like, you know, and like, and is just like intoxicatingly fun and exuberant and smart. Yeah, and they're family, so we're like art family business, I guess, you know. So they're great.
Yeah, so the publication is available. We was published with Fiden Monticelli, and it was designed by Lorraine Wild, who is an alum and has designed several of our publications. And yeah, a shout out to Katie Kim, who did such an amazing job helping me work on that publication.
Lorraine is
Katie.
so talented. It was crazy. Our first meeting, Lorraine was like, "What do you guys want the book to be like?" And I remember going, "There's this like Ken Price book that the LACMA did that was just like unbelievable." She's like, "Oh, I designed that." I was like, "Oh, of course you did." Yeah. Anyway.
And I love how people like squish it and caress it, and like it's a very like empathetic object. The same way I think people really want to touch it, different than you typically would a normal book.
Exactly.
Okay, so are we good for questions?
I'm coming over to there.
Hi, I'm a student here at Cranbrook. I was just wondering if you could speak on your use of color and how it plays a role in your work.
Color is important to us, but it's very, it's such an emotional thing. It really just happens by the two of us if we were feeling the same thing in the same moment. I mean, I don't really know how to explain it. It's just a purely emotional moment by moment thing. What's so strange is that you can love a color so much, or I want to make everything sage green right now, truly everything, but that'll probably change really soon.
Simon has this strange talent of being like, he'll be obsessed with a color. And I don't know if you guys know, but like Pantone releases like color of the year always. And Simon's like 3 years ahead of the color of the year always. He was like obsessed with this like pink color, and then obsessed. And then he was like, all of a sudden like, I hate pink.
Yeah.
Right? But then 2 years later, Pantone color of the year was like the exact pink.
Millennial pink.
Then millennial pink. And then he did it with this like cornflower blue, and then he did it with like this like deeper green. I mean, I swear to God, he's exactly 3 years ahead of the Pantone color.
Right now it's sage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, sage.
yeah. And I studied painting, and color is amazing. Painting, mixing paints is such a wild experience to see what happens when you put them together. And it's purely emotional.
Hi. I want to ask, do you have like a favorite project that you've made? And like, I'm seeing a lot of like twists and vines in your work, and it's making me wonder. It reminds me of snakes specifically, and like worms. Have you ever considered making a project close to that?
I love snakes. I have been wanting to make snakes. People don't like them very much, but
Mickey
I'm
doesn't
super
like
into
them.
them. We had a lot of rattlesnakes in Texas, but we did make 2 snakes.
We made some snakes. I mean, did you ever watch? Oh man, what is it? Sir Hiss. He's from
Jungle Book?
Jungle Book is Caw.
Oh, right.
The snakes in
Sword in the Stone.
Sword in the Stone and Jungle Book, like two
Yeah.
greatest snake characters of all time. They're so funny and they're so fun to watch, and they're such jerks in such a good way.
They like hypnotize you with their eyes.
Yeah, so we have done snakes. I think in general, so like those branches remind you of snakes, or the vines remind you of snakes. That's awesome. I think we're looking to create icons or images or forms that, again, allow you to decide what they are, right? So if that tree is a snake to you, way more important than what we decided what it was, right? Like,
and that's also cool because snakes bend really nice. They make nice curves, and so that means we did nice curves.
This is the Uncanny Valley too, but what's really funny is like with snakes or whatever. I'd say the most common negative comment we get now when someone's commissioning us to do some large scale thing is like, it's a little creepy. Could it be less creepy? And snakes almost never make the cut, unfortunately. We both love snakes, but yeah. Anyway. No one wants big snakes in public spaces, I guess. I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're the best.
I'm curious if there's like anything that people might not expect that you take as inspiration, whether it's like fashion or books or movies, TV shows.
For sure. The Garbage Pail Kids and Ren and Stimpy were huge for us. I think our
Planet K.
but I think Ren and Stimpy especially, Nikki and I totally identified with Ren and Stimpy. I was Stimpy.
I was Ren.
And it's it's so funny and it's really nasty. But I also love the like when they zoom in and it's like a painting. The disgusting freeze frame is actually a really beautiful painting. We just loved that show. And then Garbage Pail Kids, all pun names, again, kind of nasty, but yeah.
Movies and music for sure too. I think just like living in LA, like all of my friends are musicians or music producers, or most of them, or skaters. That's like kind of like the group in LA, right? It's like music is really, 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 really inspiring for us, for sure. You know.
But Simon, you also have some theory that you're really interested in.
Oh, I'm really. There's this writer, Douglas Hofstadter. He wrote a book called Metamagical Themas that like changed my brain. If you're into linguistics or music theory or computing, Douglas Hofstadter is incredible. And yeah, he got me interested in emergence. One cool little essay he wrote was about when you point your a video camera at a TV and it makes that tunnel. That's like an example of emergence, and I got really excited about that. But the beaded objects we make are all emergent shapes, and I developed the system after reading Hofstadter.
I'm a mid-career artist, a little bit older than you guys, and in my career, it's more bigger, better, more complicated, bigger crews, harder, like bigger clients, to the point where I finished my last big project 3 years ago, and like my husband said, I didn't come back the same person. How do you manage the burnout? Like, how do you manage the pressure? And is there a point where you don't want to do bigger, more complicated, more people involved?
We've hit those points a few times. I think we really try to avoid them now. I spend a lot of time watching TV with my husband, and Learning how to say no to a project is difficult, but it's a really good thing. And also being realistic about how long something will take. It's hard to not say, yeah, I can do that right now because you're eager, but ultimately you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. I think, I mean, also, like, we have 2 incredible galleries. I just want to call that out because, like, I have to say, any artist, right, gets in their own vacuum, they totally lose focus with who and where they are. Sometimes we've lost ourselves a little in it, and they've been steadfast and behind us and give us space when we're fucking crazy. And that's helped us bring us into a realm of like understanding who we are. I'd say like we had a mid-career retrospective instead of a midlife crisis, and the reality is like I had both at the same time.
Yeah, we did.
So,
we had a mid-career crisis
so
too.
it was like having wiser people around you, and then also being able to admit when someone knows much better than you, and that they're like helping lead you, that it's a good thing. And so like we have amazing people around us, and you know, for us to build a career and to make the type of work that ends up getting to be an institution like Cranbrook, and with talented people like you guys here supporting us, is like it just takes a lot of people. This isn't like, I think we're in the lucky position to get to be the figureheads of something that has a lot of momentum, but that there's like, you know, there's a list of like 200 people that deserve thanks, and we try to hit some of them in the book, but it's like surrounding yourself with good people and good friends, and then like for me, my big moment was just understanding like when I'm not a hero and I'm a total asshole, and like trying to figure out how to like integrate that into my life, and all of us have a piece of that in us, I guess. And the sooner you point it out, the sooner you can take care of it, you know?
No, King Dong.
Yeah, King Dong is me as a big old asshole.
Thanks. I just have a question about the beading system, because you mentioned it's a simple system, and I'm very curious how it works, and how did you figure it out? Because it seems more like a mathematical problem versus the other, you know, types of, you know, artistic, you know, what's the right way to do it? Materials and techniques. So I'm just really curious how it works and how you figured it out. Thanks.
Well, math is really beautiful, and actually programming is really beautiful. I love to program, and I code Java. Some of the pieces up there are Java, the emergent paintings. But there's something really cool about being able to create a seed that will then make something. So like a code can run on its own. Once you've put it there, it does its own thing. There's something really beautiful about that to me. And as far as coding these beads, I kind of just used computing ideas. And I didn't do any programming like through a computer at all, but if you have to go through beads one at a time, which is a good decision point. When you're going through a bead, something has to happen. When you're coming out of a bead, I ask the question, is it black or white? And then I'll write down, if it's black, put on a white and a black bead. If it's white, put on a black bead. And that's one of the first ones I did, and it makes the Fibonacci sequence. It's really crazy. It's so simple, makes a beautiful ruffly thing. And it took a long time to organize all of them, but if you go through every possible rule like that, you wind up with a lot of cool stitches.
Hi. First, I just want to say I feel lucky to be here today because I got to see, just happened upon this really huggable art that really, it's interesting to hear your journey with it because there's a lot more technical aspects to it and intention behind it. And I'm just curious, as this is your retrospective, what are you looking forward to in your career? What are your hopes?
I mean, making more of these trees, that's kind of like not a very romantic version of it, but the trees are really, really fun to make. I'm also excited to move forward from a place of like, I think before we were just like gut going like, let's do this, and now we've been doing it for a second. We can look at what we have made, and that's what's such a gift, is that we can look at this whole arc of what we've built so far and make decisions to move it forward, and to still be emotive, and to still be deep set in our making, and to live inside of it, but to also do it with, we're professionals now, And I think in the beginning we were expressors, and we were good at coming up with weird ideas, and now it's like, I feel like for the first time we're taking control of the ship in a way. We're like riding our own wave of creativity inside our own minds, and now it's like we have like a speedboat to like, go inside the waves and have some fun. That's kind of what it feels like. And I think the book and the show have really like given us that gift. There was a show we did last year with Marianne that was Inner Visions, and that was sort of like starting to show us what would happen if we planned ahead of time. And not just with like exhibitions, but with individual artworks, and to be meditative and to think. Well, for me, like just to think instead of just be like blah, because they're both fun and cool, but you can do both. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to, is being intentional.
Yeah, same here. Just more of the same.
Hello. You said earlier that design, craft, and art are the, quote, 3 pillars of what you do. I'm curious, what do those 3 things mean to you, and how is it that you're able to put them together in all these different works, keeping things fresh, yet always within this canon of creativity that you've created?
Well, I mean, craft is our language. That's what I would say. Right? So our dad taught us construction from a really young age. And, just like being taught English, like in the beginning, you're just speaking, eventually you can write poetry, right? So that's kind of like that craft, between craft, design, and art, we can have a combination of all 3 or of 2 or 1, but if we lose craft, our work just falls flat, I think. So that's what it is to me. Craft is this central pillar of what it is that we do. Art is the part of ourselves that gets to, imagine what. I mean, we've talked about creative problem solving, and I think like art, to me, is when we get to come up with problems to solve that aren't like, is it a comfortable seat, right? Like it becomes like, how do you create and I'm going to say it again, how do you create like a economy in an economic vacuum, right? Like, so that becomes like creative problem solving, that becomes something like art. And then design was just the way that we could start getting things in front of people, and that you can get someone to interact with your object, and it's another sort of like deep intrinsic language for us. Like art is fresher and newer for us, that we're really, really like starting to like play inside of that realm. Design is something we've been doing since we were kids, and it's a really good empathy mechanism, because if you have like a seat that you use every single day, it could be really simple in wood and not that big a deal, but like as you use it and press on it, and it starts to get a div in it, and you fall in love with this chair, and it becomes part of your life forever, and you'll always remember that chair. Design gives you that opportunity to like create relationship. I think that's what those 3 pillars to me are like. Those are like very quick and dirty versions of like what they are and what they represent for me when I'm making work, or we're making work together.
Yeah, I mean, and then craft definitely underpins everything, because as you're making stuff, if you're paying a lot of attention to it, you start getting new ideas. I think that the process of making is kind of what we're in it for. It's so great to do. And that is the craft aspect. We really don't like to just draw something and send it away to be made.
Hi. I actually, I came last night and saw the preview, and I was just enjoying how much you guys kind of go in and master each specific material that you're working with. And then I was thinking about it later in the night, and I found that there's this certain, like, I love that you're building in this type of empathy, but there also feels to be like very like strong level of control within the work. Just within, you really slow down with each material and take time to become like true masters of it. So I was curious, now that you're seeing and also hearing you talk about your work more and your processes, I was curious, now that you're seeing this mid-career retrospective, if you would ever maybe lean into more of losing control in your processes. I think specifically like with your ceramics, with the accretion, there's got to be some level of like fluidity within the firing, and maybe just something interesting within like that lessening of control. So yeah, I'd just be curious if you'd ever want to play around with that. But it sounds like, now that I just heard you talk about getting more intention and more control, maybe there's like going to be even a tighter grip on that.
I mean, I'm a control freak, and I like to. But the thing is, though, with making things, even in with the accretion, there is not very. We don't have control over it. There's control in how we're executing it, but the shape that happens is actually out of our control. And the same with the Zoidberg sculptures upstairs that are flopping over each other. We set up the conditions in a very controlled way for it to happen, but we didn't decide what shape it's going to be. The beaded objects, we are investigating rules, but those rules are pre-existing. I didn't invent them, they just are there. There's only so many that exist, and that's what I think is beautiful about math. It's just out there. So there is a lot of control in the way we're executing things, but I think we're the most drawn to things that we don't have control over.
I mean, we're collaborating also, so there's like always compromise, you know what I mean, in anything that we make. I mean, yeah, losing more control, maybe. I feel like we've lost a lot of control. Like, man, there was a moment where we were pretty freewheeling, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea what's in the future exactly. Trees are in the future. That's about it for sure, you know, whether we want it or not, and we want it, so, you know.
I've loved your whimsical creations for just years, you know, at least a decade. But this is like more a question from the beginning, because I'm actually married to an artist, so like you get to see a lot of the processes. Everybody in this room knows your name, but in the beginning, nobody did. How did you get your name out there, whether creatively or systematically? How did you get it out there so that you were noticed? And also, there's so many artists that are talented, but they're broke, and they can never put their dreams artistically to fruition. So were there any creative ways that you funded projects in the beginning? I mean, I'm sure that's not a problem now, but in the beginning, many artists can't do it because of that.
That's a good question. It continues to be a problem. The stuff we make is so expensive, and sculpture in particular is just very expensive to move, house, build, all of that stuff. We give everything we have to making, and I think that's the key early on. We were just telling a story to some of the students here about when we met Donatella Versace. She asked us to make one chair for her apartment, and we brought her like 400 drawings because we wanted more. I think seizing opportunities and just giving it as much as you have, working, even, you know, if you're working a day job, to finding a way to make what you want. We were building cabinets, and we found a way to just make whatever objects we wanted. I lived in our studio. I lived in our wood shop. So being an artist is, you have to make so many sacrifices all the time.
I remember when that first project we did in New York, it was funny, we had one employee, and we just finished the job, and I don't know why we were doing the accounting and everything, and our one employee was like, okay, so I'm gonna submit billing, and we're like, okay, and he sent it in, and we went to the bank and took it out. We were paying him in cash, and I just literally took down to 3 cents to pay our employee. And then I was like, whoa, we we just didn't make money on our own project. I was like, oh my God. What changed it was great galleries. I'm just going to come back to that, right? Like in the beginning, I don't know how to engineer that. It was a lot of luck, a lot of really hard work, making a lot of stuff, showing a lot of people, listening when people were talking and telling us what they thought about it. Obviously, you got to like delete the noise and find what works for you, but like you're having a conversation. So I'd say like, don't just talk at someone with your work, have a conversation. And then when you are lucky enough to start selling work and you have a great gallery behind you, God dang, you're so lucky. Hold on to that, foster it, push it, forward. And I don't know, like we live in a Simon and I live in a network that's important, that there's four major parts, I guess, which is like museums, awesome artists, right? Galleries and collectors, and they all need to take care of each other, and they all need to like be a part of what they're doing. And if you have a good gallery that has your best interest in mind and sees your vision and supports you, hold on to that. Oh my God, hold on to it. It's great. So find a good gallery, that's what I would say. And the way you do that, I think, is like, you just go like, which programs do I like? What artists do I like? What galleries are with? Show up, go to the gallery. I mean, I don't know, how do you land a gallery? How did we do it? I don't know, I actually don't know how we landed a gallery. Mary Ann plucked us out of design world, and Evan and Zesty plucked us out of like complete nothing, obscurity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we were making crazy, weird stuff, and we were just being loud, and we got some attention, and we kept being loud, and then we started going, oh, we're really lucky we got that attention, and then we started going, how do we use this attention to like actually make something good instead of just getting attention? And then that turned into making good work, and it was like, we have good people around us. I think we're really lucky,
Yeah, I think as a curator, like when I first came to your studio, just like rigor is a love language that we all share. Like, we care about history, we care about art and design history, we care about making. And so when I see artists who are just like going all out, all in, like, when I went to their studio and I saw like Simon's bead wall, and I was like, what is this? It was mind blowing. I went to their ceramics area, and they were testing all these different kinds of glazes, and even the glazes had names, and it was like, the control freak in them made the studio so incredible, and in and of itself was just like, yeah, I got really lost and excited, and so I think, thinking about even the rigor in the studio, like that's where the first meetings usually are.
Yeah.
Hi. What's up, y'all? I'm Christopher Jean. I'm a first year in photo, and I'm working on my first sculpture ever. And like I said, I'm a first year in photo, so like this is a whole new medium for me. I've never done this before, but I'm really obsessed with this idea that I have, and I just want to know if you had any advice for someone who's starting their first sculpture, stepping into this medium for the first time. Like, if you could share any wisdom, that'd be cool.
Yeah, some practical advice about sculpture. And actually, Isabel Albuquerque said this to me at one point, and it rang so true. She's like, you're selling people roommates, right? So like, and in her case, it's like a witch riding a broom with her vagina or something. So, yeah. Or for us, it's like a 8-foot thing with a massive gold penis. And so it's kind of hard to be like, and now you live with this. You know what I mean? You don't just store King Dong in some people maybe could store it in some massive storage area, but they're like, sculptures live inside of people's spaces. A painting, you can put it away. A photograph, you can put it away. You can cycle it into your collection. So sculpture is a hard path, right? Just practically off the bat. Really expensive to make, expensive to move, expensive to store, hard to sell to people. They could love it, but they're just like, do I really want to see that every day when I like walk into my living room, But that being said, the power of sculpture is big, right? You end up making things that have been outside for 100 years, like outside here, and they're still important, they're still beautiful, they still look just like they did when they first got put in. Maybe they're better because they have a beautiful patina. So like sculpture is amazing. I would just say a lot of heartache down that road. We're successful, we've made it, right? We have a mid-career retrospective at the Cranbrook, it's cool. But like we want to make big things, and when we do, we have to go out there and find money to make it. We have to convince people it's worth it. It's a lot. But when sculpture's there, man, it's not going anywhere. And that's really cool. I love that. Like the big things that we've put out there, you hit it with the bomb, it'll still exist. That's cool. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say. Like for me, like photography, painting, sculpture. Yeah, sculpture. We can't help ourselves. That's what we're gonna make. We love making paintings too, but it's a it's a tough road, but it's well worth it. That's what I would say. Thank you. Yeah.
I feel like the power of sculpture is big is a great place to end the conversation.
Yeah, cool. Thank you guys. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.